The police officer just looked at me. He had this pity in his eyes, a kind I'd never seen before, and he asked, "Sir, are you aware of what your wife does on Friday nights?" In that single moment, my world didn't just crack. It exploded. The life I thought I had, the woman I thought I knew, the family I thought was mine, it was all a lie. A lie so deep, so devastating, that even now, I can't wrap my head around how I never saw it coming. The life I thought was mine simply didn't exist. To understand how I ended up here, how the picture-perfect life of Mark and Sarah Landon just disintegrated, you have to go back. Back before the whispers, before the lies, before I discovered the stranger sleeping next to me. Section 1. The Perfect Facade. Our story started like a lot of them do, with this simple, easy chemistry. I met Sarah at a friend's barbecue on one of those perfect summer nights, you know, the kind where the air smells like charcoal and cut grass. She was laughing, and her laugh just cut through all the noise. I was hooked. She had this light about her, an energy that was somehow both exciting and calming all at once. We talked for hours that night about everything and nothing, our dreams, our pasts, how we both loved old movies and long hikes. Falling in love with her was the easiest thing I've ever done. She was brilliant, a freelance graphic designer whose talent blew me away. But more than that, she was just kind. The kind of person who'd stop to help a stranger with a flat tire, who remembered every single birthday, whose empathy felt like it had no end. We got married 2 years later on a crisp autumn day, with just our closest friends and family. I remember looking at her at the altar, thinking I was the luckiest man on the planet. We promised each other forever, and I believed in that forever with every part of my being. Our life together felt perfect. I know it's a cliché, but it's the only word for it. We bought a little house in a quiet suburb with tree-lined streets and kids playing in every yard. I had a steady job as an architect that I liked, and it paid the bills. Sarah's freelance work was really taking off, which gave her the freedom to work from home. Then came our kids. First Leo, then our daughter, Maya, 2 years later. Sarah was born to be a mother. I was in awe watching her with them. She had endless patience, endless creativity, and her love for them was this fierce, protective thing. Our house wasn't just a house, it was a home, filled with kids' laughter, the smell of Sarah's baking, and this incredible feeling of warmth. She was an amazing mom, taking on a role that's both celebrated and incredibly tough. Our days fell into this comfortable, happy rhythm. Mornings were a mess of getting kids ready for school, packing lunches, and stealing kisses over coffee. I'd head to work, and Sarah would settle into her sunny home office. After school, she'd switch from designer to full-time mom. Homework, parks, building these epic blanket forts in the living room. Our evenings were our time. Dinner together as a family was a non-negotiable rule. We'd talk about our days, Leo telling us about some playground adventure, Maya showing off her latest drawing. After the kids were asleep, Sarah and I would curl up on the sofa. We were a team. We were best friends. I thought we were invincible. We had our struggles, of course. Every marriage does. Money was tight for a while, especially when her freelance work hit a rough patch. A few of her big clients pulled out at once. I remember sitting at the kitchen table late one night, surrounded by bills, and telling her not to worry. I said my salary could carry us, that she could take a break. But she was so fiercely independent. She insisted on pulling her own weight, said she had it handled, that she was finding new, high-paying clients who needed work done fast. I was so proud of her drive. Looking back now, I see it. That was probably the first thread of her other life being woven, and I was completely blind to it. We argued sometimes, sure. The stress of parenting, the bone-deep exhaustion after a long week. But we always found our way back to each other. We talked. We said sorry. We forgave. At least, I thought we did. I believed our marriage was built on solid rock, on years of love and trust. I couldn't have been more wrong. It was built on sand, and a tidal wave was coming. The sense of betrayal that was coming was so much worse because of this belief in our perfect life. It made me feel like I should have known, that I should have seen something. The life I was living? It was all a stage play. And I was the only one who didn't know the truth. Section 2. The inciting incident. The first crack in the facade was so small I almost missed it. It was a Tuesday night, maybe 8 months before everything fell apart. Sarah said she was going to a networking event for designers in the city. Not unusual. She went to these things occasionally, and I was always supportive. "I'll probably be late," she said, kissing me goodbye. "Don't wait up." I put the kids to bed, cleaned the kitchen, and fell asleep on the couch watching TV. I woke up around 2 a.m. The house was dark and quiet. Sarah's side of the bed was empty. A little knot of worry tightened in my stomach. I called her phone. Straight to voicemail. I texted, "Hey, hope everything's okay. Getting worried. Call me." I told myself I was being paranoid. Her phone died. She went for drinks with colleagues. She's a grown woman, but I couldn't really sleep. I just kept checking my phone, listening for her car. She got home a little after 3 a.m. I met her in the hallway. "Hey," I said, my voice thick with sleep and worry. "You're late." I was worried. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said, but her voice was off, distant. She wouldn't look me in the eye. My phone died. A few of us went out for a nightcap, and I lost track of time. She smelled faintly of some perfume I didn't recognize and cigarettes. Sarah didn't smoke. "You smell like smoke," I said, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, one of the girls, Chloe, she's a chimney. We were in her car." Sorry. It was believable. It all was. And yet, a tiny seed of doubt was planted. The way she avoided my eyes, the vague answers. It just didn't feel right. But I buried it. I chose to believe her, because what was the alternative? I wasn't ready to start questioning our entire marriage over one late night. A few weeks later, another crack. I was doing our taxes and saw this recurring monthly charge for a web hosting service I'd never heard of. It wasn't a lot, maybe $30, but it had been going on for almost a year. I knew her business expenses. This was something else. When I asked her, she just waved it off. "Oh, that's for a side project. A blog I was thinking of starting about parenting and design. Just haven't gotten around to it." Again, plausible. But why hadn't she mentioned it? A parenting blog was exactly the kind of thing she'd normally be excited to tell me about. That little seed of doubt started to grow a root. Then came the phone calls. She got protective of her phone, always keeping it with her, always face down. She'd get calls at weird hours and take them outside, her voice a low murmur. Once I walked onto the back porch, and she ended the call abruptly, turning to me with this startled look. "Who was that?" I asked. "Just a client," she said, her smile a little too bright. A real pain, demanding changes at all hours. The incidents started piling up. More late nights with clients. Unexplained cash withdrawals from our joint account. A new, expensive lingerie set I found in the back of her drawer that she never, ever wore for me. When I asked her about it, she said she just bought it for herself. Another puzzle piece that just didn't fit. My head was at war with my gut. Part of me, the husband who loved and trusted his wife, wanted to believe every word. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was the one betraying her with my suspicion. But another part of me just knew something was deeply, fundamentally wrong. The woman I married was becoming a stranger. Her life was being split into compartments, and I was on the outside of a locked door. It was a slow, creeping poison, this dawning realization that the person I shared my bed with was living a life I knew nothing about. I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the ground was crumbling. I just hadn't looked down yet. Section 3. The Unraveling. Deciding to go from suspicion to actually investigating, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It felt like a betrayal in itself, like I was admitting our marriage had failed. But the not knowing was eating me alive. I had to know the truth, no matter how ugly. My investigation started with her phone. One night, Sarah fell asleep on the couch. Her phone was right there on the coffee table. My heart was pounding as I picked it up, my hand shaking. I knew her passcode, our daughter's birthday. I almost put it back. This was the point of no return. I took a deep breath and unlocked it. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I started with her texts. And there it was, a folder of archived conversations. My blood ran cold. I opened the first one. A name I didn't recognize, Jason. The messages were explicit. Plans. Times, locations, prices. I felt sick. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't an emotional affair. This was a transaction. I scrolled frantically, my mind just short-circuiting. There were dozens of these conversations with different men, all neatly archived. She talked about her rates, her availability, her specialties. The language she used was cold, professional. It wasn't my Sarah. It was like reading messages from a stranger who was wearing my wife's face. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the dark, the phone's glow lighting up the horror on my face. Every message I read turned another memory to ash. The networking events, the cash, the phone calls, it all clicked into place with this sickening clarity. The next day, I was a ghost in my own home. I went through the motions, breakfast for the kids, kissing Sarah goodbye as she left to run errands, but I was completely hollowed out. That night, after she was asleep, I took her laptop. I remembered that weird web hosting charge. I found the bill in our email, found the website. It was password protected, but there was a forgot password link. I typed in her email. The reset link went to her inbox, which I still had open on her phone. My hands were trembling as I typed in a new password and logged in. And there it was. Her other life. An escorting website. Her profile name was Sasha. It had a gallery of professionally taken, provocative photos. The bio described a sophisticated companion for discerning gentlemen. It listed her rates and a menu of services that left nothing to the imagination. I saw the lingerie I'd found. She was smiling in the photos, but it was a smile I'd never seen, confident, seductive, and completely empty. I thought I was going to be sick. This wasn't just betrayal. This was the complete demolition of my reality. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, was selling her body to strangers. The shock was physical. My chest was tight, my ears were ringing. The shame I'd felt forever doubting her was gone, replaced by this deep, soul-crushing humiliation. The next few days were a blur of silent agony. I was a detective in my own home, gathering evidence of a crime against my heart. I found a secret email account, a hidden Instagram profile, a folder on her laptop with spreadsheets detailing clients, dates, payments, and notes about their preferences. She was running it like a cold, efficient business. I pieced the timeline together. It started about 2 years ago, right when her freelance business tanked. The financial pressure was the trigger. She had built a wall between Sarah the mother and Sasha the escort. It was a coping mechanism, but for me, it just confirmed I was married to two different people. Living with this knowledge was torture. I had to pretend everything was normal for the kids. I had to sit across the dinner table from her, knowing she'd spent the afternoon with another man. I had to kiss her goodnight, and her skin felt alien. I was drowning. How could the woman who soothed our daughter's nightmares be the same woman who sold herself to men for cash? The duality was maddening. I had found the truth, but the truth was a monster. And now, I had to figure out how to confront it. A storm was coming, and I had no idea if our family, or if I would survive it. Section 4. The Confrontation. For 2 weeks, I lived in this private hell. The truth was like a shard of glass in my chest. Every conversation with Sarah, every touch was a lie. The weight of it was crushing me. I wasn't sleeping. I knew I couldn't live like this. The confrontation had to happen. I picked a Friday night. The kids were at my parents' for their monthly sleepover, a small mercy I was deeply thankful for. I couldn't do this with them in the house. Sarah got home around 6 from a yoga class. She seemed happy, relaxed. She kissed my cheek and asked about dinner. The normalcy of it was just grotesque. "We need to talk," I said. My voice was eerily calm, the complete opposite of the hurricane inside me. Her smile faltered. "Okay," she said, her face turning cautious. "Is everything all right?" I didn't answer. I just walked into the living room and sat down. I had her laptop on the coffee table, open to the website, to Sasha's profile. She followed me in. Her eyes hit the screen. All the color drained from her face. She just froze, her breath catching in her throat. The silence was suffocating. I watched her face cycle through shock, then fear, then this chilling, blank resignation. The mask was finally off. "Mark," she whispered. "Who is Sasha?" I asked. She just stood there, trembling, looking from the screen to my face with these pleading eyes. But what was she pleading for? Forgiveness? For me to unsee it? I couldn't make it easy for her. I needed to hear her say it. "I asked you a question, Sarah. Who is she?" Tears welled up. She finally sank into the armchair across from me. It's me," she choked out. Hearing her say it, even though I knew, hit me like a punch. It made it real. Why? It was the only word I could get out. She just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't know how to explain." "Try," I said, my voice hard cold. "Try to explain how the mother of my children has been selling herself to other men. Explain the spreadsheets, the secret phone, the thousands of lies. Please, Sarah. Enlighten me." She flinched. "It started when the business dried up," she said, her voice shaking. "You remember how bad it was? We were falling behind on the mortgage. I felt like I was failing you, failing the kids. I was so scared." She told me about some friend of a friend in the industry, how she'd heard about the money, the flexibility, how at first the idea horrified her. But as the bills piled up, the idea became a solution. A way to be a good mother when we were desperate. "I told myself it was just a job," she sobbed. "It was separate. It had nothing to do with us. Sasha wasn't me. She was a character I played. I just did it to pay the bills, to give our kids everything. It didn't mean anything. It had nothing to do with you, or how much I love you." Her words were like something out of a psychology textbook. The compartmentalization, framing it as a means to an end. But it didn't bring any understanding. It just made me feel sick. Nothing to do with us. I stood up, my voice finally breaking with an anger I couldn't hold back anymore. "You brought strangers into our marriage. You lied to my face every single day, for 2 years. You think that has nothing to do with me? The trust one had in you, it was the one thing I thought was absolute. And you burned it to the ground for money." "It wasn't just for money," she cried back. "It was for us. For this house. For Leo's soccer camp and Maya's ballet lessons. I was trying to hold everything together. By tearing us apart." I yelled. "Did you ever once think about the risks? About diseases? About your safety? What if one of those men had hurt you? What if the kids found out? Did you ever stop to think about anyone but yourself and your twisted idea of providing?" The fight went on for hours. A storm of pain, accusations, and heartbreaking confessions. She admitted everything. The lies, the clients, the constant fear and shame. She talked about how exhausting the double life was, how she was terrified of being discovered, but felt trapped. I listened, but my empathy was buried under so much betrayal. Her pain just felt disconnected from the wound she'd given me. The woman I had put on a pedestal was gone, replaced by someone who made reckless, selfish choices. As the fight wound down, I asked the one question I was dreading. "Do you love me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Yes," she whispered. "More than anything." That's the only part that was never a lie. But I couldn't believe her. How could I? Trust was the foundation of our world, and she had dismantled it. Without trust, her words were just sounds. As the sun came up, we were just spent. The anger was gone, leaving this vast, empty wasteland of sorrow. We were two strangers sitting in the ruins of our marriage. I looked at her, and I didn't know who she was. The confrontation hadn't brought closure. It had only confirmed the terrible truth. The life we had was over, and I had no idea what came next. Section 5. The Aftermath. The morning after was the quietest our house had ever been. A heavy, suffocating silence. We moved around each other like ghosts, the air thick with everything left unsaid. The life I thought was mine was gone, and that reality was a constant, torturous hum in my mind. The worst part? The kids were coming home the next day. We had to pretend to be normal, a task that felt impossible. We agreed in short, strange sentences to put on a front for them. But the pretending was almost as draining as the fight itself. That first week was a blur. I moved into the guest room. The distance between us was now a physical thing. Every small interaction, passing in the hall, talking about groceries, was a painful reminder of everything we'd lost. I felt this deep, isolating shame. I couldn't tell anyone. How do you even say those words? My wife, the supermom, was a prostitute. I was in a state of crisis. The betrayal wasn't just the act itself, it was the deception. I started questioning every memory of the last 2 years. Every laugh, every I love you. Was any of it real? The grief was overwhelming. For Sarah, it was a different kind of hell. With her secret out, the walls she'd built to cope came crashing down. She had to face what she'd done, and the guilt was crippling. She barely ate or slept. The light in her eyes was just gone. She offered to do anything, therapy, quitting immediately, but the damage felt permanent. A month later, we decided to separate. We couldn't heal in the same house. The place that was once our sanctuary now felt like a tomb. We told the kids we needed time apart to work on grown-up problems. The look of confusion and fear in their eyes was just another twist of the knife. I knew the tension was already hurting them. Separating was cold and brutal. Dividing assets, discussing custody, trying to explain the situation to a lawyer without it sounding like a TV movie plot. It was humiliating. But the biggest consequence was the complete destruction of trust. Sarah didn't just break our marriage vows. She shattered my reality. Healing from that kind of betrayal isn't a straight line. It's messy. Some days I was consumed by rage. Other days I was just drowning in sadness. I started seeing a therapist to try and navigate the trauma. The aftermath was the demolition of a family. It was our kids having to split their lives between 2 homes. It was me, a man who thought he had a perfect life, having to figure out who I even was without her. It was a lonely, painful journey through the rubble of a life I once loved, with no map to show me the way out. Conclusion and reflection. It's been a year since that night. A year of trying to build a new life from the ashes of the old one. Sarah and I are divorced. We co-parent Leo and Maya as best we can, holding a fragile truce for their sake. The kids are resilient, more than I could have imagined. But I see the subtle scars. I just try to give them all the stability and love I can. Sarah is also in therapy. She's working through whatever it was that led her down that path. The desperation, the pressure, the belief that her worth was tied to what she could provide. Sometimes I feel a flash of empathy for the scared woman behind the secret. But forgiveness? I don't know if I'll ever get there. For me, this whole nightmare has been a brutal lesson in trust and deception. I've learned you can share your life with someone and not know them at all. The shock has left a permanent mark on me, a caution that I'm afraid I'll carry into any new relationship. How do you learn to trust again when your trust has been so completely annihilated? I've realized our perfect life was an illusion. It was built on a silent pressure to keep up appearances, a pressure that pushed Sarah to make choices I still can't comprehend. We weren't honest with each other about our deepest fears, especially about money, and that was our biggest failure. Moving on is a day-by-day thing. Some days are good. I can see a future. Other days, a memory hits me, and the grief feels brand new. The life I have now isn't the one I would have chosen, but it's real. It's honest. And after so much deception, there's a strange comfort in that. I'm no longer living a lie. The path to healing is long, and I'm still on it. But for the first time in a long time, the ground beneath my feet feels solid. This has been the most painful experience of my life. It forced me to confront the darkest side of betrayal. And now, I have to ask you, the person listening to this, what would you have done? How would you have handled a situation this impossible? Leave a comment below. I think in sharing our stories, maybe we can all feel a little less alone.